This is your daily market review for Monday, September 11th, 2023. Let's go. Hey everyone, this is my channel to help investors and traders develop a probability-based mindset to succeed. Also try and keep friends informed of what's going on in the markets and the economy, and also a little real estate content as well. This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka the Trading Agent. This is your daily market review, Monday, September 11th, 2023. Hopefully you had a great weekend. Another interesting day in the market. If you weren't expecting a pop or chop or whatever, I don't know what to tell you. If you get a minute, check out the live chat we did earlier. Identified some trades that are looking pretty solid, some things for setups. We'll do them all again, but I think some people will enjoy the live version of some of the things that happened during the day, especially with what's going on in the world and what's going on in the market. So, as always, here to help. Appreciate all the love, support, generous donations. And let's get into it. If you're not a member of the Discord room, a link is in the description below. Wow, yeah, YouTube, options expiration. Please check out the videos. It's in the Back to Basics series, educational trading videos, Back to Basics on my website, thetradingagent.com. You guys know it's well worth it. I promise. Also, check out the recommended reading list. I keep telling people, people ask questions like, where do you get a lot of your information? Click on the links, use the affiliate links. I'll make 3 pennies, whatever. Either way, get the books. Trust me, it's well worth it. You don't need very many. The market is not rocket science. I promise. Between those 3 books, you'll know exactly what you need to do. Last but not least, check out the Goldman 5.3 high yield savings account. It is well worth it. And also joining, reopening another interactive brokers account. I've had one there for a while. The link to sign up for one and a referral code, I think it's worth it. Again, I don't know about Schwab. I don't know about all these brokers, but I know interactive brokers should be around. Let's check out what are we expecting from the Fed. Again, it's about 100% pause. I mean, I know their meeting is next week. And yeah, pause. It just seems very likely. Bitcoin, I don't know why it's reloaded. Look out below. You really got to hold 25,000. We've said that a million times. Again, it's a trader's market. Oil, I'm starting to get the idea of shorting it. Now, a lot of people are going, whoa, what? Feels like a trap breaking out here with hurricane stuff. And then at this point, again, demand destruction is real. You're up against some fibs here. I know this is not the fib most people watch, but do the reaction. Or actually, let's draw this one out because, again, you can see this fib. Where are you, my friend? Here we go. I mean, you can stretch it all across. You can tell that we're right at the point 382, a little above it. But at this point, in my opinion, I don't think it sustains unless there's more supply constraints. But even then, it's made a nice run. 60s up to almost 90. Do the math. It's a big percentage move. Natural gas is starting to lag. That's one of the things I'm looking for as well. All right, let's get into, again, keep an eye on the oil trade because I think oil service names are showing you what you need to look for. So if you're looking for any trades, I think the strongest one right now, if you didn't short tech at the highs of certain names, oil and gas is starting to make sense to me to short up here. Dollar, we talked about volatility, breaking out. Is this really going to go higher? I don't really give too much of a darn about which way the dollar goes. I'm just watching for the action. I want to see if it gets wide and loose. TLT, another one we talked about, waiting for OPEX. If you really wanted to buy this, thought we'd come back down to range lows. I mean, you're at those levels, right? Like check it out. I mean, is it rocket science here? I mean, what's the best price to level? I mean, if you can get 92, 93, I think with tight stops, I think you're looking at a pretty solid risk reward. The VIX, as we know, it's options expiration. Try to kill the VIX. I just don't know how much more downside there is, y'all. Keep an eye on it. I don't think there's much. That's where it might be a Monday, Tuesday chop, and then Wednesday, Thursday smash. Friday. Oops, not the VIX. In the VIX. This is another thing I was watching today. I was like, okay, we're back. Do we fill the gap? And that's about it. I mean, those are the things that I'm looking at with the volatility indicators. I mean, could we get back into this area? And if it does, and it shows a divergence, keep an eye on it. It's by, as we know, chopping around. If you saw the Stock Traders Almanac, you knew there's 3 bullish days to start the week. Now, do they all have to be bullish? No. But you thought at some point there would be pops. Now you got that Morgan Stanley upgrade. You got a doji day. I'd be watching that 449. I'm just taking notes. I always love taking notes while I'm doing this. 449 plus. I think that's an easier short. Q. Dead cat bounce. Not surprised. Chopping around. I mean, could we retest the highs? I don't know. Just keep an eye on this stuff. I mean, I don't trust it at all, but I mean, if you want to be safe, you now have a little bit of a trend here. That's what I'd be watching. If that thing breaks, Arrivederci. I'm gonna remove that trend line because it didn't seem to matter. Keep an eye on that. Hopefully that helps some of you guys that are gals that are looking at this stuff. It's optics. You don't know. It could just chop around. It literally could go nowhere. Like IWM today, literally went nowhere. It's traded in a very small range. $2, dollar change, didn't go anywhere. Closed back at the 100-day. DIA, same kind of thing. Not much range, just kind of sucking out the volatility. Made higher highs, but then hit the 50-day, backing off. All right, gold, silver. I don't really know why there's much to talk about until the Feds pivot. I personally think you could see, I don't know. Man, there's a lot of trap potential here. I don't know. I personally think it's just easier to leave it alone. Silver, we talked about, dead money. At worst, it's probably coming back down to the mid-20s. And if the market gets beaten and bludgeoned, these things will get slammed. Same thing with GDXJ, GDX. I mean, again, they're holding low ends of range, but they haven't been acting well as the market's held up. GDXJ, same thing. They don't look good. They look like they're about to get nuked, but I could be wrong. But I'm not trading them, so I don't really want to give them much effort. I'd rather just wait for the Fed pivot to buy these names. AG, because I don't know how low they can go. Some people will be like, oh, you can buy AG now. I'm like, well, what if AG, I mean, not to say they'll go out of business, but what if something really happens where they dilute the stock and take it back down to like 2 or 3? AEM getting stuck here. I mean, it looks dead money. Newmont, we talked about why gold miners should be higher, and this thing is just not acting well. It just shows you overall the market for this stuff is rather weak. PAAS, chopping around again. It's stuck in this 14-15 range. Really not much to say. Taiwan, Sam, let's get into tech because this is where it gets interesting, right? Man, this thing is holding on with the lifeline. It looks like another gap down and just chop. I mean, you've got these gap downs and chops and then leads to another gap down. I'd be keeping an eye on it. Adobe at the 0.618, 1.618 fib extension chopping. Apple going into the Apple event. I mean, not surprised there's a little lift. I'd be watching this 120-day. Does the gap have to fill? Do we have to play this game again? Does it have to fill? I don't know. I'd put in, I don't know, 182 plus. I would keep an eye on that because that might be the short right there. Amazon now, this is getting into the short range in my opinion. Retesting the highs. If it's earlier in the week in OPEX, I would probably absolutely short this, but maybe it gets up to my alarm there. Maybe it needs to just get 145. Maybe it needs a bull trap and then flop. I mean, maybe people are buying it because of the next COVID wave. It's hard to know. But we're at some areas that matter, as you can see. I mean, you don't need to be a rocket therapist to know. Sorry, I'm trying to get it. You don't need to be a rocket therapist. You know what a rocket therapist is? Neither do I. CRM, again, this one's stuck here. Post earnings, chopping around. That looks like it's interesting. Keep an eye on for a pivot point there. Guggenheim been holding up pretty well. Do you trust it? Maybe making a lower high. Meta, I mean, I think there's some news on them. I don't really care, but it seems to be holding up pretty well. I mean, again, pick your spots. Microsoft, I know people think about shorting this. I personally, again, does the gap have to fill? No. But I'd be watching the range here. I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't get up there. It's not that far. If the Qs hold up, some names are going to rise, some are going to fall. This one's tough. I mean, I like it long term. I feel like you disappear, you're good, but if you're watching it, not so much. NDAQ, meaning short term. This thing is dead money, but there is a trend here. Again, we like trend lines, but they're not infallible. Keep an eye on it. If it breaks at 50-day, it could be toast. And MicroStrategy, we said this thing would get cooked if Bitcoin is. I don't know why I wouldn't get back down to the 320s. Netflix, excuse me, got really close to 450. I like this as a short up here. Tight stops. Keep it simple. Roadblocks. We talked about this one bouncing. Would hit the 20-day channel or chop around. But look where it hit. Remember we talked about high volume candles. Love to retest. Look at that. Doink. Becomes basically resistance. Oh, sorry. Let me draw it straight. Dink, dink, dink. I mean, you could draw it as like a box. Look at that. High volume candles love to retest, and they turn into resistance, the extremes. Lows and the highs can. Well, look at that. Tesla gets an upgrade. Looks like Morgan Stanley's trying to petition them to get some shares. I put this on the list. 275 area. I mean, be careful. Layer in all these trades. If you're not sure, just layer in. I don't know why, but I skipped other semiconductors, but I'm going right back to them. Sorry. Micron. Getting stuck up here. Man, that looks really interesting too. 79. I mean, 70 plus. I mean, I just be patient. AMD, we talked about this one hitting 110, 111, failing. So far, so good. NVIDIA, we've talked about this thing being a piece of junk. It held the 50-day. Again, I think this is a professional gap. It's just waiting. Intel, been rallying. I mean, everyone's been bullish on it. Not surprised. I mean, they're trying to get government subsidies to get backed. I mean, it's holding up well. I mean, if you're going to short semis, it's probably not the one to short. SMH, another low today, just chopping around. I mean, again, it's OPEX. I wish it wasn't, but it is. That's just the game. X holding up. I mean, they're talking about getting bought out, but someone doesn't. I don't know who wants to take on their debt. Doesn't make sense. Nucor breaking lows. I mean, if it wasn't OPEX, it probably gets melts, but I don't know. Just keep an eye on it. I mean, if you get a bounce back, I think it makes sense to short this again then, right? Man, I'm putting that one back on the list. Just things to watch. 168, say. Could be an interesting name. Caterpillar, anything on this thing. Up in the mid 280s. People are like, how do you trade around your position? Well, guess what? We talked about that in the live chat. Check it out. Again, it looks like a big M pattern. It's just a matter of when, not if. VALE, my car. 100-day. I mean, we've talked about the global growth name, been oversold. I mean, novice gap, trap, reaffirms, another novice gap, chopping around. I mean, it looks like it's just, I don't know, choppy and sloppy. Sometimes there's just nothing. I don't know. You don't know. You just leave it alone. Arrow, make new lows, bouncing back. I mean, it looks distributive up here. Again, copper starts to weaken. CCJ holding up pretty well. I mean, this one looks interesting to short, but we'll see. CF, here you go. Here's a name. You know, double tops, retest, backside of the trend line. These names look interesting. Ag to short, because Mosaic hasn't been acting well at all. Right? NTR, same. It doesn't. It's like the mid of them. One's acting crappy, one retesting, one's like broken trend, and this one's just kind of like going sideways. It's tough to know. AA, here's another global growth name that should be on fire. Not so much. XLF, we talked about financials, and you know, XLF getting up into this mid 34s. Look what it's doing. It's just chopping. If it wasn't OPEX, it probably gets burned to a crisp. Toast, whatever. Keep an eye on it. Our good friend JP Morgan, this is, you know, you watch for these names, it just hasn't been leading up. It's lagging. Interesting. Maybe it gets to the 20-day. If it does, I think you should short it. Morgan Stanley, this thing is, we talked about getting a dead cat bounce. Red engulfing bar. I mean, maybe, again, if it wasn't OPEX, probably gets burned, but it could chop around. Goldman waiting for that trend to break. Oh my God, that's juicy J. Keep an eye on that. Carry, we talked about the juniors. Junior banks just dead, nothing. That is not them. Carry. Chop. Watch the 100-day, because if it goes, it goes. You know what I mean. XBI, we talked about this shorting up in the 80s. Nice trade. Just keep in mind, I mean, people are going to argue, it's a head and shoulders top or bottom. I would just probably argue in my mind, it's just a support zone. Once it breaks, arrivederci. Adios, amigos. Throwing in a few other IYT. We talked about like transports, just real quick. Housing index, 100-day, not surprised if it gets a little bounce. XHB, housing, I mean, again, chopping around. It looked like it was dead, but today's wick is interesting. I mean, could we chop around? That's the thing here, is if you look left, you go, yeah, this thing could be in a chopper. But lower highs, lower lows. Again, keep that in mind. Coming off, lower highs, not really lower lows, but it's tough to say. We'll say. Solar, we talked about this thing being junk. It's just chopping. I mean, ENPH, love for these to rip. I'd short them. I mean, I don't know why. There's not much to say. They don't have any bounce in them. We talked about these things being absolute pieces of crap. And you're welcome. If you shorted solar months ago, leave a comment below. I'm just curious, because I know some people who took it dead serious and were like, yes. All right, here you go. For solar chopping, once it does, it does the thing. Basically, it's this gap here, right? Anywhere in this vicinity. Once it can get into this and break it, adios. HYG held up pretty well. Again, it's one of those days where not too much to say. Oil, we talked about potentially topping. Look at this action. Keep an eye on it. Just, again, you define your risk. UNG, again, nat gas hasn't been leading, so that gets me a little sketchy. XOP, this is today's candle. It's a little sketchy too. An outside new high and then engulfs and fills the gap. I mean, I think you know as well as I do. Like XOP, I mean, if you can see that in the 152 plus, I don't know, maybe the drip in the niners, mid nines. I mean, that could be a really good trade with tight stops. ExxonMobil gets back up towards the range high. Look at this. Trying to fill the gap. We'll see. Keep an eye on it. Oxy's been acting like turd, right? Right? Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Just got to be careful. Does that make sense? Because I think a lot of people, just in general, have not. Again, they think that oil and gas are going to the moon, but I'm telling you, there's a thing called demand destruction, and let that play out. PXD, now this looks like a good short too. Look at this. You know, we're talking about certain oil and gas names. Look at this. Breaking the 20-day. Like if oil and gas start leading lower, something's wrong. EQT, we talked about this one. Novice gap trapping. Watch the 41 area. If it busts, it busts. We'll end it on Flex LNG. Check this out. I mean, again, these names just chopping around. We like this name long-term on major dips. But at this point, if you have to trade, be careful. Be careful with OPEX. Promise me you're going to be careful because it's one of those weeks where it's not going to always be easy. If you have any questions, please reach out. Use the Calendly link below. I appreciate any likes, subscribes, hit the notification bell, leave feedback, whatever you need to do to reach out and do it. And also, if you just want to let me know how you're doing, how I can help you. I mean, again, the student's ready, the teacher's appears. I mean, I have people who hit me up on the side and they're like, oh, I don't post in Discord rooms. I don't want to post. I don't want to look like an idiot. Well, guess what? You look like an idiot irregardless if you don't know what you're doing. So be the idiot that reaches out versus the idiot that stays alone and doesn't fix and doesn't work on themselves. I promise you, it's well worth it. All right, I'll talk to you guys and gals later. Hey, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, stop by the Discord room. A link is in the description below. Also, if you'd like to help support more free content, the PayPal link is in the description as well. I appreciate your continued support of the channel.